Hey there, welcome to our deep dive on a really big idea in politics, power sharing. Think of this as your go-to study guide, where we're going to make this whole topic super clear and easy to understand. So let's start with something you've definitely experienced. You know that standoff over the TV remote or that intense negotiation over the last slice of pizza? Believe it or not, that's a tiny power struggle right there. It's what happens when different people all want different things. Well, guess what? Entire countries face that exact same problem, just, on a way bigger scale with much higher stakes. So when you have all these different groups with different ideas, how do you keep things from falling apart? The answer, and the big idea for today, is power sharing. Okay, so here's our game plan. First, we'll nail down what power sharing actually is. Then we'll look at two amazing case studies, Belgium, who got it right, and Sri Lanka, which, well, took a different path. After that, we'll explore why sharing power is so important. And we'll wrap it all up with a quick revision to make sure you've got it down. All right, let's get started. To really get this, we need to understand two key ideas that are basically opposites of each other. They're at the heart of everything we're about to discuss. We all know the word democracy, right? But at its core, it's all about people participating. And if everyone's supposed to have a say, it just makes sense that power can't be held by just one person or one group. It has to be shared. You could even say power sharing is the very soul of democracy. And here's the flip side, majoritarianism. This is the idea that whichever group is biggest, the majority, gets to call all the shots, however they want, without paying any attention to what the smaller groups, the minorities, need or want. Remember this word because it's absolutely crucial for what's coming next. Okay, let's see how this stuff plays out in the real world. Our first stop is Belgium, a country that came up with a really smart solution to handle its internal divisions. They called it accommodation. So here's the deal in Belgium. You've got a Dutch-speaking majority at 59% and a large French-speaking minority at 40%. But, and this is a big but, the French-speaking minority had historically been richer and more powerful. So right away, you can see how that could cause some major problems, right? So what did they do? It was actually genius. They created this amazing four-part solution. First, they said the main government had to have an equal number of Dutch and French-speaking ministers. No one group could just run away with it. Second, they gave a lot of power to regional governments. Third, in the capital city of Brussels, they created a separate government with equal representation. And finally, they made these cool community governments that handle things like culture and education for each language group. It was a really creative way to make sure everybody felt heard. Now, let's flip the coin and look at a very different story. We're turning to Sri Lanka for a cautionary tale about what can happen when a country chooses majoritarianism, that word we just learned, instead of sharing power. Now, in Sri Lanka, the numbers were pretty different. You had a large majority of Sinhala speakers, about 74%, and a significant minority of Tamil speakers at 18%. This setup created a very clear majority versus minority situation from the get-go. After Sri Lanka became independent, the Sinhala majority started to flex its power. In 1956, they made Sinhala the only official language, completely ignoring Tamil. Then they brought in policies that gave Sinhala speakers an advantage in getting into university and landing government jobs. As you can imagine, the Tamil community felt completely pushed aside, and that feeling grew and grew until it eventually exploded into a brutal civil war. And this slide, wow, it just puts it all into perspective, doesn't it? It's so clear. Belgium chose to share power, and the result was peace. Sri Lanka chose to exclude the minority, and the result was a devastating war. The difference in their approach and the final outcome is just night and day. So we've seen it in action. Belgium's success and Sri Lanka's tragedy really show us something important. Sharing power works. But why does it work? And what are the different ways countries can actually do it? Let's break it down. So there are really two big reasons why power sharing is a good idea. The first one is called the Prudential reason. That's the practical, smart reason. Basically, sharing power just helps avoid fights and keeps the country stable. It's just a better system for everyone. The second is the moral reason. This one's about what's right. In a democracy, everyone's voice matters, so sharing power is the fair and just thing to do. So how do you actually share power? Well, one way is horizontal. This is where you split power between different parts of the government, like the part that makes laws, the part that carries them out, and the part that judges them. It's a system of checks and balances. Then you've got vertical power sharing. This is when power is shared from the top down, from the national government to state governments, and then to local ones. And that's not all. Power can also be shared among different social groups. Remember how Belgium created that community government? That's a perfect example. And finally, it can be shared between political parties. Anytime you hear about a coalition government, that's what's happening. Multiple parties are teaming up and agreeing to share power to run the country. Whew, we have gone through a lot. So now it's time to hit pause and make sure all of this great information is really sinking in. Let's do a quick revision to lock it down. Okay, take a good look at these questions. Try to answer them in your head. Can you clearly explain the difference between what Belgium did and what Sri Lanka did? Do you remember those two big reasons, the practical one and the moral one for sharing power? Can you describe horizontal versus vertical sharing? And can you connect the dots for how majoritarianism led to such a terrible conflict? Running through these is the best way to know you've got this. And that really brings us to the main takeaway. This idea of power sharing isn't just for textbooks or big governments. It's happening all around us, in your school, at your job, maybe even in your family. So the final question I want to leave you with is this. Where do you see these ideas of people sharing power or of one group dominating playing out in your own life? Thanks for tuning in.